7 citizens, and welcome to this deeper dive on what I consider the top 5 list of roadmap features currently still not completed, and yet with so much active work already completed or still underway, we could see these huge features within the next few patches. So sit back and get ready to review this great list of features that will definitely bring in some of the most wanted and needed changes into Star Citizen, with a deep dive on their progress, and hopefully we could even get an idea of when we should see these features go live. Alright, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, this is a list that will actually encompass many different deliverables for a single feature, such as the various different aspects of what goes into bounty hunting, etc. I'm going to go over each one of these deliverables as they appear on the roadmap, explaining what they are, what they could be adding into the verse, and the most current progress on each of them, and then offering up a single feature timeline prediction, so you get some concrete proof of how right, or more than likely how wrong, I'm going to be here. Now, keep in mind that some of these features have not been officially discussed or shown off for many months now, and so the best that I'm able to do is offer up some guesswork on the progress or the road it's taken this year, but I will try to keep the conjecturing to a minimal and report as many facts as possible. Alright, so in no particular order, but most likely alphabetical, here we go. Alright, so I'm not sure how long we've been waiting for this next iteration of bounty hunting, but I can tell you that with this new version, we should see a multitude of new features come into play here. Now, some of those features tied to this overall main feature are things like actor statuses, where characters or NPCs will need to go into a down status to be apprehended. So we've seen work on actor status tier 2, with some of the work ending in June of this year. There's also the prone tier 1, which has not had any work done on it since March of 2023, which could indicate it's complete, or maybe it's waiting on more of the bounty hunting subsystems to be completed, such as the NPC scheduler service deliverable, which is not scheduled to be ready until the second week of November. Now, I believe the Vault weapons are those weapons that will be used to capture live bounties, and those are also ready as no work has gone on with them since last year. Now, we have no idea what all features will be included with this Bounty Hunter version 2, but if it also includes functionality with quantum simulation features promised from Tony Z, then that could easily stretch this into 2024. My guess is that we should see some bounty hunting changes coming no earlier than fourth quarter 2023, but then things get kind of tricky due to server meshing and possible pyro updates, which could also start testing fourth quarter or first quarter 2024. Now, if any of these features that are going to control NPC locations, communications, or tracking are tied in with the quantum system, then server meshing being online is my guess as to when the entirety of the feature is available. However, might we get some form of static bounty hunting in the meantime once the jail and ability to carry uncapped bounties is ready, but without all the fancy tracking features that those more advanced tech features promise? Now, I could see that, in which case we might get a Bounty Hunter version 2, maybe with a 321 release, and then a Bounty Hunter version 3 after server meshing with the full realization of real-time dynamic bounty tracking and changes. Now, there are many deliverables that make up the UI Overhaul, with some of them having been shown off last year at CitizenCon, and they honestly cannot get here quick enough in my opinion. The deliverables pertaining to this overarching UI theme in alphabetical order are the AR map rework, which will add the building block screen UI like we see on the sales terminals, elevators, etc., into the map marker system. Now, work on this deliverable just added more time with this week's update from mid-May now through mid-August. The map and radar system is an overhaul of the star map, which is numero uno on so many players' list of things that need to be changed. Even Todd Pappy said the old map needs to go to hell. Now, work on this feature was also just pushed out a little from its third week of June to the end of July, which isn't a huge jump in time. The MFD rework is another one that fits into this UI Overhaul theme, which will update the ship cockpit's MFD screens around the pilot to also work with building blocks, so we should see more options and possibly even better manufacturer-themed MFDs available on the ships. This work shows it will end in August, and let's hope that it will be included in the overall UI update that I am predicting, but more on that in a moment. The Mission Manager app changes also goes along with the UI overhaul, since this will cover more options in terms of what we see or have information about for missions inside of the mobiGlas app. This work is scheduled to be completed the 3rd week of October. Speaking of mobiGlas, the mobiGlas rework is something we saw at last year's CitizenCon, and the changes we saw then were already shaping up to be game-changing. They have since had almost another year to provide further work on this deliverable, and that work was another one that was just bumped up slightly from being done the 1st week of July until now the end of July. Between the star map revamp and this one, the UI is set to be completely changed by those. Moving on to the player interaction experience tier 0, hints and interactions, which is a huge mouthful, $10 title, shows it's another part of the UI changes, and its time has just been extended with this roadmap for the 3rd week of August. But that's not too crazy. This feature will give us a ton more information displayed on our visor HUD and should pair nicely with the new FPS scanning mode. So the last deliverable that I've lumped into the UI overhaul is the quantum travel experience changes, which has not seen any movement on the roadmap since the end of March. This deliverable will change how the ships actually quantum travel and the look of it. So now what is my prediction on these massive UI changes that I believe will all come rolled out into one update? My prediction is not one I think anyone really wants to hear, but I think it comes with 4.0. The huge 4.0 update is meant to be a leap forward in terms of opening up our first expansive system to explore and play in, but also it's the perfect time to completely change the very tools that we use to move about and play in the verse. Now I can't imagine the timing of these items to all be completed or already completed by the 3rd quarter is just a coincidence. We might get our first look at a 4.0 trailer during CitizenCon, and I think a brand new UI across the board will feature heavily in that look. Yes, I know we've seen pyro video updates at the last couple of CitizenCons, but I predict we might see an actual trailer for what will be about to go into testing. Now, call me crazy, but that's my big prediction for this feature and how we're going to see it revealed and when we're going to get our hands on it. We are getting closer and closer to how cargo will be handled in the verse, and the last huge obstacle will be the freight elevators along with the tractor beams and trading changes to how ships are going to be loaded. Now we can definitely track the tractor beams, which were just hit with a pushed out date this week from the 3rd week in June all the way to the end of September, and there's been some discussion about them on ISCs as well as the monthly reports. We know the Hull C could show off some of what a tractor beam can do, but maybe not with the latest tractor beam delays, unless that's just meant for the other tractor beams across the various ships. But we're hoping some of the other ships might also have those abilities as well, especially the Taurus and Caterpillar, and maybe a few others. We're either going to get a little bit of ship tractor beams with 320 or none at all. Guess we're going to have to wait and see. We did get a cargo refactor with 318, but we're still not seeing many of the needed features like NPCs loading cargo instead of it just magically appearing inside of the ships, or being able to move around larger ship components, which is where freight elevators will come into play, which would allow us to sell or even trade larger components, whether with others or even to store them from our own ships. So now the bad news is that the freight elevators are not set to be completed until December, which means an entire freight overhaul is not likely until the 1st quarter of 2024 at the earliest. With the Hull C, we're meant to see some trade changes, but we still have no word on how vast those are or what they're going to entail. Overall, I would not expect freight to be in a great finalized spot until early to mid 2024 at the earliest, but it would be nice to get in some things, like the ability to move those larger parts around. So this is the big one, and yet not the flashiest feature that many newer players really understand just how much gravitas this feature will have on the verse. Now, if you want to know what server meshing is and why it's so important, I'm going to give a brief explanation here, but for a fully detailed tech overview, you need to check out Ray's Guides or Space Tomato on server meshing. They both cover the technical side of it very well. Basically, server meshing is different than how we handle being in the game now by adding multiple servers to cover the entire system instead of a single server covering the system as we have now. So for example, you set off from Microtech to ArcCorp, and as you travel, you, your ship, your inventory, and everything concerning you or players on your ship would be seamlessly handed off from server A to server B without you, the player, knowing it. This same tech is how we will be able to get from the current Stanton system over to the Pyrus system or beyond into other systems that are released at a later time. It also provides protection from server crashes and should also allow for less server crashes overall and more survivability reliability and stability, and will also be able to split the load when something huge is going on a single server of space and not punish those who were nowhere near it. The game has been limping along without server meshing, but with so many next level features needing to be added into the game, the time for it's kind of finally arrived. The company has been hard at work on it for the past few years with an added push this year to get, at the very least, the first iteration, which will hand players off from Stanton to get into Pyro. This first iteration of server meshing will most likely only handle that transfer and not break the systems up into multiple shards, but that's okay, and these are necessary baby steps the game needs in order to build to that ultimate tech feature. The work on server meshing has been ongoing, like I said, for years, but that work is, as of right now, showing it's going to complete at the end of September. Now, does that mean the work will be completed then? Hell no. This feature will be popping back up on the roadmap for the next couple of years or until the shard system is fully operational. I fully expect to hear an update on its progress, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we see a live demo of it actually working at CitizenCon, with news about 4.0 hopefully going into testing based on server meshing success. Yes, I know this is an optimistic timeline, but it's also based on the latest information that we still have, that being the last Chris Roberts plans for server meshing and that timeline given, which was seeing it enter testing sometime late 2023. So far, we have not had anything to refute this except for PES being delayed and having its own hiccups the first half of this year. Now, was this enough to push server meshing back up to 6 months to where we get server meshing and thus Pyro in 4.0 next summer? Possibly, but until we hear for sure, I'm still looking for it to go into testing late this year. Now, before I get to this last feature on my top 5 list, I wanted to ask that if you found this video or any of the other guides, reviews, loadouts, or roadmap deep dives helpful, that you please like, subscribe, and comment to help my videos gain traction past the tyrannical YouTube algorithm. It's much appreciated. So this final feature on our list is another multi-deliverable that includes a few various features being worked on that has seen some progress on the roadmap and is something we were told earlier this year by the EU-PU team that it's not as far off as we think, meaning they seem to have a good handle on it and seem to be teasing that we might see it this year. So let's take a look at the deliverables to see how they're doing on the schedule. First up, in alphabetical order, we have artificial gravity, which that work has been ongoing for over a year and is currently scheduled to end by the end of October. Now, this is a huge undertaking which will affect the gravity in all of our ships, which we can already see happen when a ship goes into soft death, so having this feature tied to components with an on and off switch seems like something very much on track and doable in this time frame. Fire hazards is another feature that this week was pushed out from its shown completed date of mid-June to the 3rd week of August. Now, this could crop back up on the roadmap at any time as it's needed to be worked on or adjusted for engineering, but being able to put out fires literally or reduce oxygen in a part of the ship to make fires go out is very important, and I suspect is on track to be implemented as well. Not to mention that this deliverable is non-specific, so this could mean work on a number of different items that utilize fire and not necessarily just engineering. Life support tier 0 is yet another part of engineering gameplay that is on track and set to be completed the 3rd week of October. Now again, it's something that ties into the rest of engineering gameplay and is also on track with the others that are to be completed. There are some player-machine position interactions and FPS work that has been done that might also tie into engineering gameplay, but for the most part, most of these have their work completed, which might be another part of engineering gameplay that is good to go. Now, some people might lump vehicle trespass into engineering, but these seem to be handled by different teams altogether, such as the mission features team, and engineering is not tied to this feature. Resource management is the overall feature that all of these sub-features are tied into, and it's showing its work going through mid-December, which leads me to my predictions. So I think it's possible to see engineering in a 321 patch. We do not yet have word on if a 321 patch is even in the future, but my gut feeling is that yes, there will be a 321 patch launching in December with some minor updates or features, and maybe engineering gameplay could be that big ticket item, maybe alongside master modes. We will of course get a better handle on how the updates will go after 320. We're already seeing hints of the 320 point updates, which in and of itself is not unusual as it's something they were doing long before the extra long life cycle that was 320. However, if there is not a 321 update coming and they just mean to go directly into a 4.0 update, we might see a few point patches as ways to keep adding minor things while 4.0 is testing. My honest feeling though is that there will be a 321 patch in December and 4.0 will begin testing early 2024 or maybe even around February-March of 2024, because we know that the studio takes time off around Christmas and even things like the roadmap is put on hiatus until February. It's all up in the air until CitizenCon, which is just under 90 days away, so we'll see what happens between now and then, but do expect a lot less information between now and then. All right, and that's going to do it for this look at what I feel are the top 5 deliverables that we can expect to go live in Star Citizen between now and probably second quarter 2024. Now, I would love to see all of these by no later than first quarter 2024, but that's all going to depend on how far things were pushed back because of PEZ. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below how you think these items fare in terms of a release date. If you disagree with my time frames here, I want to hear your take and why you think I'm wrong. Are you looking forward to CitizenCon and learning about what we can expect, or are your expectations tempered and you will only believe it when you see it? Now, as we get closer to CitizenCon, I will of course use what we learn over the next 2 months to give up some more accurate predictions on what I think we can expect there. I personally hope that the show is going to be an awesome event that is not filled with hype, but actual proof of concepts and the work done. In the meantime, I hope you all enjoy whatever games you'll be playing that keep that thirst down, whether it's Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, or maybe even some cozy game time you don't wish to share. There's no judgment here, since I've been dipping my toes into some Guild Wars 2 lately. Anyway, remember to be kind to your fellow gamer, keep hydrated both in terms of fluids and hopium to get through the drought, and stay positive citizens.